All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to review the Fischer Esterification. Well, highlighter, kind of wide too. Fischer Esterification. We saw it in chapter 10 to make chromate esters. And I put that on every test for you too. And once again in chapter 17, carboxylate esters. Yeah, and this is a carboxylate ester here. And it would be helped if I used a DST, wouldn't it? Won't change your mechanism at all. What does a DST do? It helps condensation reactions by what mechanism does it help? Okay. Trapping which of the things? Water. So water gets trapped in a layer outside of the reaction environment, it's removed from the equilibrium, right? And Le Chatelier says, got to make more water, which means you make more ester. Okay. So we got an isotope thrown in there because it's review. I'm going to combine steps. Red's first always. I like this blue second just to be consistent. And do you remember why we have to do this first? Activate the carbonyl, because alcohols are lousy nucleophiles, and that oxygen with an 18 on it, it's an alcohol, right? And it doesn't want to attack carbonyl until you protonate. Hey, you just protonated. What does the alcohol want to do now? Attack the carbonyl. And I could combine the third step, but I'm not. I could take the H off the OH. And I've done it on another mechanism earlier, somewhere. But, you know, you don't have to do three at once. So what do we have? We have a ring. And pretend you're not good at figuring out what the ring should look like. So just draw what you saw before. There's an O with a new H. There's an old OH. There's this O down here that has an H. And it's got a big old bond in green from here to there, right? As a carbon. And talk to me about a formal charge. Where's the formal charge? There's a lot of oxygen. On the left oxygen, the oxonium oxygen there. Yeah, the plus means oxonium, doesn't it? Okay, step 1 and 2 were combined. 1 and 2. And what do you think next? You also made OTS negative. OTS negative, is the conjugate base. It's going to take the H and regenerate the catalyst. Hey, I think I figured out it's a 6-membered ring, and it looks a lot like the one on the top of the screen. And I forgot the 18, but it's there. That's the O that was the alcohol. It's a heavy isotope of oxygen. Normal oxygen weighs 16 grams per mole. This one weighs 18 grams per mole. It's got 2 more neutrons in its nucleus. And they do that so they can study mechanisms like this. They did the reaction where they knew it was the alcohol that was O18 and no other oxygens had O18 on them. And when they studied the reaction, O18 ended up exclusively in the ester and none of it in the water. This mechanism is consistent with that. If the O18 is the attacker, it will be the O in the ester. If one of the other O's was an attacker, then this would be disappearing occasionally, or maybe always. Yeah, it didn't disappear and end up in water, did it? Look, it didn't end up in the water. So what we have here is something that looks a lot like top of the screen. Why? We have a dead spot in the middle of my screen. I don't like it. Not happy. That's a pretty bad spot to be a bad spot. Okay, we got that. And the H is gone off. That's what we just did, right? Jeez, Dr. Whitaker, get it together. Okay. We got two OHs up here. And I think it's time to get rid of what? Oh, and I didn't draw it right. My goodness, they're not there. They're on the carbon adjacent. That was just random, guys. I apologize for that. And the bad spot. I'm being taunted. It's got to be the carbon adjacent to the O. Look. Yeah, there's the carbon with a methyl, the O. Carbon with a methyl and the O. It's O18. Maybe I'll put my label on there. And the 18 attacked the carbon. And now the carbon has two OHs. The carbon has two OHs. I put a green dot there, you know. Consistent. Now you can tell me what's going to go on there. Clearly, one of these O's has to go, and both of these H's got to go. We call that water. So what do you call a reaction that removes water? Dehydration. This is the dehydration step of the condensation reaction. Yeah, you can't call this whole thing dehydration. It's a condensation, right? Fischer is the classic condensation, by the way. And every condensation reaction has somewhere in its overall mechanism a dehydration step. And the dehydration step must be catalyzed by an acid and its conjugate partner. And the conjugate partner is going to remove the H from one of the alcohols. And the acid's going to make the other one a better leaving group. That would happen first, wouldn't it? The only reason that went deep is to avoid a bad spot on the screen. That's first, and then second, kick it off. There you go. And that gets you there. And just a brief comment for B. Because O18 was the new, and where was it a new? It was a new right here, new. It ends up 100% in the ester. Now for C, all I have to do is redraw O18, got a proton, and the other one was already there. What would the distribution be if only the carbonyl oxygen was O18? So this has got to change. And the 18 moves from here to here. There's no 18 here. That's what only means. It's only here, which means it ends up here. Okay, now the question is, when you're dehydrating, did you have to take the H off of this O and lose this OH? Or could you have taken the H off of this O and lost this OH? You could have. And guess what the frequency is? 50% done this way, 50% done the other way. So 50% ends up in the ester as the carbonyl. And I put that methyl's in the wrong spot. No, it's not. It is not. You get O is there. Make that nicer. Make it nicer. And you're going to get O18, 50%. And then the other 50% is here. And this one would be normal OH2. And there's your two products. You got that, and you got this. So that answers the question, right? What would be the distribution? What would the distribution be if only the carbonyl was O18 to start with? You'd say half of the O18 ends up as carbonyl in the ester, and the other half ends up in water. That's a good answer if you want to use words. Picture answers it. There's two pictures here at the end that says where all the O18 ended up. And end of story. It's a good one.